Welcome to the OSO Spurs podcast. I've just returned from the ground and we're going to give you some green shoots amongst a defeat. I think, Joe, it felt like it was a defeat, but I came away feeling like we'd drawn. It's a really odd feeling. I normally when I come away from a defeat, there's nothing that can make me feel positive and optimistic and happy, but I've got a weird tingle of excitement. Maybe it's some of the things we're going to discuss on today around young players hitting another level. That gave me a very bright foresight into the future. But how are you feeling about it anyway? That's just my perception. It's fine if you feel miserable after losing a game.
I'm terrible. No, I'm not terrible. I feel fine about that one too. It's somewhat what I was preaching in the members-only pre-match episode we did. So if you want to have a look at those things, join our membership. But yeah, it was sort of what was kind of going to be expected. We were playing against a good team, especially when that lineup came out as how young it was, with our forward line being so inexperienced, especially with each other. And it could tell through the opening stages of that first half.
Is that a pun?
What did I say?
You
I
could
didn't
tell.
even notice. Yeah, I nailed that one. Deliberate, everybody. That was deliberate. No, you could tell that the ball was just not sticking to our forward line. We didn't start off drastically like we did against Ipswich, but the defence got under so much pressure by the ball just bouncing back so quickly. And I knew it was going to happen with the situation with Porro. As soon as I saw his name in the lineup, that everyone was just going to blame him. But I didn't think he was any different to any other defender. As individuals, I thought they all played fairly well. I just think that the transition is just bouncing back against us. And I did say in the pre-match that if they had Haaland, then it would make a difference. And it clearly did. They wouldn't have. I don't think we would have been close. It probably would have been 0-0 in the end because we didn't put anything away. But he was their only threat, really. Savio had a decent chance, but he can't score goals.
Yeah, the difference between the two sides did feel like one side had a fit number 9 and the other side had no fit number 9s. And
absolutely,
that was the difference. Like, Tell is... I tried to remind myself that Tell is 19 years old, and in the same way Bergvall has hit new heights after 6 months, in the same way Archie Gray hit new heights after 6 months. Like, this guy's going to take some time to get going, and we still don't know if he's a wide player or a forward in Ange's head. That will come. We'll find out over time, I guess, when the squad's fit. But there was some moment. If we start at the back of the pitch, I felt like Vicario's leadership was so noticeable in that game, and we've missed that so much over this injury period. It's so great to have him back, and Archie Gray playing out the back and just sending Haaland on his arse a few times as he dribbled past him was something we can all be so excited about. Like, at 18 years old, to be doing that against Man City was really, really, really nice to watch. And I agree with you. I could feel you knew what criticisms were coming. And as soon as Johnson and Porro started, I thought these two are going to be the scapegoats today. And people would say, why did you not play Jed Spence there? But the same people would be saying, he doesn't rotate his players enough. And we've got the Europa League game, which is more important. Why are we not resting players for that? So I don't think he could have won from that perspective. I think the lineup was probably mostly the right one. And like we said, it was just the number 9s up front that made a difference. I don't think they defended better than us, despite having fit defenders, and we didn't. And I don't think the midfield was better. I thought our midfield played pretty well. So yeah, it's frustrating in that sense. And we had chances to get something from the game. But yeah, if we work away at the back, how did you feel the defence did, considering it was, Danso was out of position, having to play on the other side, and Gray is not a centre-back. How did you feel we defended?
As I said, individually, I thought they were fairly decent across the board. There was a moment where Porro got absolutely bodied by Doku, and that would have just sent everyone wild. And he should have been stronger in that situation again too. You did mention Vicario's leadership, and that's interesting because obviously I'm on the other side of the world to the game. You don't get to see the goalkeepers as much on TV. And so it'd be interesting to hear what you picked up at the game with him sort of talking to everyone. I know he does. But Danso was good though, especially throughout the game. He carries, he can turn well, he's aggressive in defending. I thought he was great. Udogie wasn't his best game, I don't think. There wasn't really anything to note. There was it would be the same thing. He would come forward and the ball would get turnover in our forward line, and then he would be out of position chasing back and just couldn't make up the ground. And then kind of similar to Porro, but I didn't notice it as much with him. And then Archie Gray, he's just ridiculous, isn't he? He's just, for that age, to do that at centre-back and keep growing, and really didn't put a foot wrong. There was a moment in the second half where he was pressing in our forward line, and I was just at the TV like, what are you doing, Archie?
Yeah.
And there was kind of no reason. It was like he decided that, the press isn't good enough, I'm going to go get some of this too. But yeah, his ball carrying ability shows that how good he'll be in the midfield, especially with this defensive knowledge that he has now, to understand what the centre-backs are going to be doing behind him when he's playing as that defensive midfielder, to be also able to carry. His passing is getting a lot more confident. So I thought they were all right across the board. I think it was the whole defensive unit as a team that sort of gave them chances in the first half, but we solidified that in the second half. They didn't really have a chance in the second half other than that handball goal.
No, the old football saying, a game of two halves, came true there. And on the Vicario leadership thing, I think, not sure if they showed it on TV, but where I was sat in the stadium, when we conceded that goal against Haaland, Vicario ran up to Bergvall, Bentancur, and I think it was Danso, and got them in a circle, and just, you could see he was reminding them that they had made errors in that phase of play that led to the goal. And we saw it. You could almost feel the goal coming. You thought, there's the first mistake, there's the second mistake, and there's a third mistake there.
Yeah.
From all those players being slightly out of position or not knowing that. We'll take JJ's, if you haven't seen this episode, JJ is an A licensed coach, and he points out these midfielders, it will come with time, don't know, I think it's called their running lines, but sometimes they're in the slightly wrong places, they press slightly at the wrong moments, and I think those moments were clear in that phase, and you saw them creating space for Manchester City to run into. But Vicario was very quick to run up to them, just in a leadership kind of way. He was passionate, but it wasn't like telling them off. It was just kind of like, just remember, guys, you're meant to be there, you're meant to be there, and you're meant to do that. I'm not sure what he was telling them they were meant to do, but you could tell he was reminding them like a coach would. Nange was kind of clapping him like, yes, 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 keep reminding them.
Oh, he makes such a difference with that, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like we look more organised with Vicario there. And it's also funny, like, suddenly, since he's come back from injury, I don't know, something we deserve to give ourselves a bit of credit for here. I don't feel vulnerable at set pieces anymore. And we've quickly forgotten that.
Yeah. I mean, I was never on board with that we were bad at set pieces. It was just never a thing for me that I thought was... Like, it was just the statistics didn't line up as being bad. It was just, there was a couple of games in a row, but that just happens sometimes. Sometimes you concede 3 games in a row from a set piece. It doesn't mean all this doom and gloom around that we don't train it or that kind of stuff. But yeah, you can tell it's sort of when Kinski was playing, you sort of forget about those little tiny details about sports and team sports especially, that it's not just about ability, it's about the mental side of the game too, and he just holds everyone to account. And it's what we've sort of been saying. There was a sort of a moment about a month ago or so where people were questioning who was the leaders in the team, and it's obvious that he is one of them. It's unfortunate he plays goalkeeper, because it would be better in the midfield just with the ability to talk to everyone all the time. But some of our young guys in the midfield are pretty ridiculously good, to be honest.
They are, and we will get to that in a second, because there are many, we'll call this episode green shoots or something along those lines. There is much growth in the side, and that growth has accelerated dramatically, and we will cover that. But where we lack that leadership is where Solanke would be, and you've got Vicario bringing leadership to the defence. I think Archie Gray doesn't need to be led. I think he can lead himself. But also Vicario's leadership kind of reaches as far as the midfield, but he can't influence the attacking line. That's not his area. It's not an area of training he's probably a part of and able to instruct players on, whereas Solanke is that guy. And I think that's the area of the pitch where the players looked a little bit inexperienced at times, and they lost their heads when it was a bit... Losing their heads is a bit of a strong expression. I think they didn't suddenly panic and do awfully. I just think they all looked to each other to be the leader, and there wasn't one there to kind of take that moment. And I thought Kulusevski was going to be that guy when he came on, but he wasn't really.
Yeah. But I won't jump too far ahead on Kulusevski. We've got to have a place to touch on first.
Yeah, we will get to him. But the fun bit of the game was just watching Lucas Bergvall, wasn't it? Like Bergvall, however you want to call it. He's just reached new heights.
Yeah. It's just incredible his just ability to split the lines and run through them. He nearly has it all. His first touch is great. He brings the ball in well. He's getting his head up a lot more. He's not holding the ball as much as long as he used to as well. He used to sort of want to do it all every time he touched it, but now you can tell he's like, all right, this isn't the chance. I'll just move it on. I'll just bounce the ball off me and play it back, whatever it is. He just keeps the ball moving, but the ball carrying is ridiculous. The way he just walked through their midfield. And again, that's sort of what we mentioned in the pre-game show as well, is that if we can overrun their midfield, we would have a chance. And we did do that. I thought our midfielder was better than theirs. Unfortunately, we picked up some yellows and they didn't. He's just ridiculous.
And there were some moments like that, and I wouldn't put today's performance on refereeing performances the reason we lost at all.
Really.
Like, we got away. I only saw the handball being ruled out in real time, so I don't have a fair assessment. But from everything I've read, it should have stood that goal. And when I'm in the stadium, I'm thinking
I felt it did too. It wasn't given a goal by the referee. That's why it didn't stand.
Yeah.
But no one knew. No one on TV knew. Everyone just thought it was given a goal. The score got updated to 2-0. And then it just went. Vicario was playing it out. I'm like, what? It said decision on the field, and then it turned out he didn't give it a goal. But you couldn't tell, I don't think, in the replay if it hit his chest onto arm, Archie Gray's shoulder. There was multiple times it could have hit his arm. Yeah, it was only because it wasn't given as a goal on the field. But that was feeling like that was the only sort of decision that kind of went our way anyway. But it wasn't down to the refs that we didn't win that game.
No, the only small gripe I'd have is I'd say maybe they should have had a booking or two sooner in the game, where they got away with a few tactical fouls that we didn't get away with avoiding a booking on. But another player I think deserves credit who did get booked today was James Maddison. I believe he got booked. The difference in his performance today for me was he did do what he does best in terms of controlling the midfield when we were on the ascendancy. But he also looked to win the ball back a lot, and he did make some fantastic tackles. And I think he deserves a bit of a shout out for a player that's previously had criticism for not being physical enough, stepping up in that game and being a bit of a leader from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
And elsewise in the pitch, I think Brennan Johnson got a lot of grief in the South Stand. There was a lot but with him, I think when a player gets a reputation, people start to look for things to highlight on that player, and he didn't have a great game, but no one in that front three was doing particularly well in the first half. We were struggling to get out to anyone out the back. Tell was as anonymous as Johnson, but no matter what Johnson did, people would say he's in the wrong spot again, he's in the wrong place again, he's not running when he should. But on another day, again, he did set up one or two very, very good chances. He is good. People say, he's not running ahead where people think he should be. Him sitting back and waiting for his moments is what leads to him being unmarked and finding himself getting on the end of these balls. So you can't have it both ways. But I do understand people saying he should press more and he should perhaps actively make runs to get on the end of balls coming out the back. I get that, but I don't think he was as bad as he was made out. Maybe that's a bit me being a bit biased, but
I feel like I probably could be biased. Just want to defend a Tottenham player maybe, but I don't. Yeah, the hate for Brennan Johnson is just way too overblown. I don't think that he doesn't trap back either. I feel like if you just watch back and watch him, there's plenty of times where he's coming into the box as a defensive action as well. He might be not great at defending, but do we want Danso to be our best scorer as well? Like if we're going to say that Brennan Johnson isn't good because he can't defend, then we have to say that Danso isn't good because he can't score the most goals in the team. Because that's not his job in the team, is to defend like the defenders are. Yes, he should. We want to defend on the front foot and be pressing, and he could be better around that. I think his biggest weakness is probably when the ball gets played into him on the line, and he needs to make a one-touch pass to sort of keep the ball moving on. He sort of seems to flick it out of bounds a lot and that kind of stuff. But again, it was what I felt like was going to happen was they would tire and his energy and legs would help him in the second half. And that's what happened as well. The game isn't just 1 minute. It's all those minutes combined to where you want to be at the end of the game. So yeah, he could have definitely been better. It wasn't his best game. He did set up a couple of chances, but I just don't know why people want to hate on our players so much. It's just, I guess it's just that type of personality that want to hate on people, bring people down. But that's just not me. I just whether they play
Want
a
them to
good
do
game or
well.
bad game, I support. Yeah,
And it's
and he
fine
scored
to say
14
didn't play
goals.
well, but
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think it's just overblown a lot, and I'm not surprised that you moved to the other side of the stadium if
yeah,
people just yelling just ridiculous stuff at people. And
there was a free seat in the West next to a friend of mine, my brother, George. So I was like, I'm gonna like as well. I want to sit next to my brother, but the other reason was I was like, I love the South Stand, and the great thing about the South Stand is I think you have the typically on average you have the more passionate side of the fan base there. The people who travel away, if you've got a correlation of where they sit in the homes in the stadium, most would be in the south, and they're brilliant. And they create a lot of the noise in the second half. I thought the first half atmosphere was really flat, but the second half was brilliant, and put that down to those same people. But what I struggle with is the narrative start as soon as the whistle goes, and it was all this guy does is score goals. I find that's just such a strange criticism to hear.
yeah,
All you
it's a
do
weird
is score
criticism.
goals, and it's
What does
like,
Haaland do? He touches the ball 8 times a game and scores goals. But no, I mean, people do criticise him for that again as well. So players, I guess, scoring goals isn't the most important thing. It's being the perfect player across the board is the most important thing to people. But the narratives that get thrown around actually sort of bore me in the fact that people will just repeat stuff they hear rather than doing critical thinking about what is actually happening, what's the holistic view of it all. It's just, I heard someone say this, they didn't get it. They got some sort of likes on it maybe, and so I can repeat it too. And that's just life, I guess. So
I also heard a lot of people hadn't seen Odegaard play in a long time, and I get it. From the south, they look like small objects from a distance, but the couple of guys behind me kept getting, maybe it was their eyesight, they were older gentlemen, they kept getting Tell and Odegaard the wrong way around. So they kept on saying, like, that's what you get when you buy a player from Burnley. And I was like, that's Tell. He's got the white thing on his hand. I was like, you're literally, you've got this in your head, this narrative so strong.
Yeah.
You've invented what you're seeing. But I don't think actually I don't think they actually mean it in a way of like I'm hating on a player. I think they just get so frustrated at the situation that the scoreboard says 1-0, and because they care so much and they want Spurs to win because they are good fans, they look for a way of getting my words mixed up. Look at a way of kind of justifying it in their mind.
Yeah.
And then it's just easy to jump onto those things when in reality you're playing a side that they're having a very bad season, but they're still fourth. They're still third even now. They're still got the world's best striker in their side. They've still got, when they brought on their subs, it was like, here comes Gundogan and Jack Grealish. And I was like, these guys are like, this is their bench of just like players who are coming on as like to wind down the clock, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
They've got such a good squad. We
And
don't have any
experience in
right
there
to beat
too.
these guys. And so much experience.
Yeah, and like you could tell in the end of the game too, they killed the clock so well. They just ended the game on us. With Odegaard though, he was our brightest spark for the first 10 minutes for sure. I actually, Kusanov, he started his career shaky at City, but his one-on-one defending is really good. He is fast, and I think Odegaard got a little bit taken aback by it, that he wasn't beating him comfortably, just because that his strength is that getting one-on-one with a player, and then he's tried to cut in a fair bit because he wasn't beating him to the byline. And that sort of slowed us down towards the end of that first half. But he stepped back up when he was on for the second half again as well. But he's coming back from an injury. He's played 3 games before his injury for us. He's just turned 20. You can tell he has a lot of sort of ability in there. It just needs to be unlocked. And again, I mentioned earlier that these guys, the 3 in the forward line, have never played a game together before. And you can tell, and we've mentioned on this channel a lot about chemistry and how it works together. And yeah, it's guys coming back from fitness, but we've got to also, or from injury they're coming back from, but we've got to remember that because they've been injured for so long, a lot of them, they just haven't played together. Like Danso, Archie Gray, they played 2 or 3 games together now. The second game of a doggy for 260 minutes for Danso. It's just, there's that chopping and changing due to injuries. I mean, we can probably turn on to the rotation part now. The squad selection at the start that I went on to Twitter at halftime just to see the vibe, and it was all, how can we not start Jed Spence? That was pretty much the whole thing. And being like, wouldn't you expect us to start Porro against Ipswich and Jed Spence against the better team? But that takes away the fact that Porro needed a rest against Ipswich. And it's just that sort of mindset.
And the bigger games next week. Like, I know Ipswich
next week.
Man City is bigger than playing Ipswich, but our game against AZ is more defining.
From a broadcaster's perspective, it is bigger. But in terms of our season, I think the Ipswich game was bigger because we had to win that game because it was against Ipswich. So, and then we should have probably got a point out of this game. Just look at the momentum bar. They had bigger sort of XG, but there was at the end Pap's chance that there was the chance that doesn't go down would have been a huge chance if Kulu hadn't taken it off Matta's toes. I don't know if you spotted that at the game, but I think it was Johnson put it across the ground into the box and Kulu stretched for it and played it into just basically a back pass, but it would have fallen straight for Matters basically on the penalty spot on his right foot. And that doesn't go down as a chance.
Exactly, and this is the other thing. But the XG, and I used to really take the XG as like a that's where you should be thing. But as I've been educated on how it works and the fact that certain headers don't count, it doesn't count unless you shoot. There's a perception XG, whether it's a shot or a cross. I'm not sure if blocked shots even are calculated accurately or not because they can't tell certain things with it. There's so many variables with that. And there was, when we were talking to one of the coaches who came on, I think it was either Anton McElhone or it was JJ. Some of them said, but Ange is, if you get to know what some of the elite managers do, and this isn't just an Ange thing, this is a Pep thing as well, this is a Slot thing, they try and manipulate XG. And the sense that, I mean, they don't focus on XG as a thing because they know that if you focus on winning XG, you don't actually increase your chances necessarily of winning a game. Because if you wanted to win XG every week, the strategy would be to get within 25 yards and pretty much just shoot on target. Whatever the pitch, just keep shooting. You'll get a 0.1, a 0.1, a 0.1, and you'll just keep, you'll always get shooting positions at that distance. So you can keep just shooting and shooting and shooting. But it's better to let those XG opportunities go, continue to work the ball in the hope that you get like that perfect byline cross 3 yards out and you've got a goal, like 9 times out of 10 doing that. But the problem is you've given up 2 or 3 low XG opportunities in that process up there would have accumulated to more XG than just having that one that you didn't end up getting at all. So the stats are useful, but the eye test does actually give you more in many senses over how you performed in the game. And I think the eye test of that game was we deserved a point. We played well enough for a point, and having a fit number 9 would have resulted in a point.
Yeah.
The other thing
go on, sorry.
I was just going to say the other thing that was really exciting for me was when we went to make our subs, Sarr, Son, Kulusevski, and there was someone else who came on. So Sarr, Son, Kulusevski, and Spence coming on. I was thinking, how refreshing that we're able to bring these players on, and even the players coming off are brilliant. Like we've finally got a squad that you can change a game on and turn it on its head. And if only we had one of our fit starting centre-backs and one of our fit starting strikers, this game would have ended so differently in my view. But both, we would have won it, I think.
Yeah. The Solanke is getting more and more obvious, and I don't want to put it down against Tal because he just needs time. There was something you sort of JJ mentioned in his first touch, and the first time he got
popping up,
we got a chance to do it. It popped straight up, but he got a foul against him, so it worked out in our favour. But yeah, he's just a young man that just needs time, and we're missing Richie as well. And Richie's a weird one when I watch him play because I can't tell if he's good or not, but he still scores. He just doesn't, I don't know, he doesn't seem as like Solanke, doesn't seem as good at all around, but then his goals to minutes ratio is probably pretty high. But yeah, just if we could have just his leadership, his pressing ability, his line running ability, his physicality in there again as well, the ball would have stuck so much more on our forward line. It would have taken the pressure off the transition from our defense. And yeah, I think we would have had. They probably still would have had that chance, I guess, where Haaland scored. It's all those ones where, like, say you get a free kick and it shouldn't have been a free kick, and then the ball bounces the other way. Like, if that didn't happen, then this would have happened. But then you're sort of butterflying effect it through the whole game. You can't really sort of tell with instances. But yeah, hopefully he's back for that second leg in the Europa. But hopefully he can just play 30 minutes in that game because we're already through by that stage. That'd be nice.
Yeah, we just need to make sure we don't come out of that game with like a 2-goal deficit or something.
Mm-hmm.
It is like people still think, oh, we got all these players back. It's still crazy that that's still quite a depleted. That's our level of injuries now are kind of what Arsenal are calling an injury crisis. And this is like, it just because it's so much better than it was last week doesn't still mean we're not coming out of the woods at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so reassuring to see, because I think we're looking for now as we're going, okay, let's give this another season, this whole project, if we see reasons for that. And by that we mean players do improve under this manager. And we're seeing that. Performances do improve when players come back, and signs that we can compete with the sides we hope to compete with next season when these players come back. And we're seeing all those things. So there's lots to kind of look forward at and think, okay, let's get excited for that and let's do it. And look, we did somehow. I don't like pinning it all on the Europa League. There's still really good sides now. If you did bring it home, it does make it our most successful season in 20 years on paper, which would just be incredible.
It would just mean so much, wouldn't it? It would just. It's actually kind of, because we are somewhat favourites in the bookies' eyes. I'm just getting really nervous about it now, to be honest. It's sort of like it would mean so much for just in so many different avenues for the club, as in get that monkey off our back in terms of winning something, in terms of justifying the Ange project, because in my opinion that's good, so it would vindicate my sort of perspective, I guess, as well. It just the players' sort of experience of winning stuff. It would just been so much. So I'm just getting so nervous about it now.
Yeah.
It's just...
For the growth of those young players, that was the second youngest Premier League side ever fielded that we fielded in that game.
Yeah, wow.
It's just amazing.
You could tell a little bit. You could tell. It's funny. You could tell that it was our youngest team. However, Archie Gray and Bergvall were incredible. So it's, even though that it was the youngest, it's just shows how good some of those players are that we have, and it's very exciting times. I just hope it looks like we're going to stick it out, I think, and hopefully we bring a couple more players, I think, just to bolster the squad, and hopefully now that the finances are in line and there's a good base of the squad, that we can actually spend some money on that midfielder that we need, I think.
Yeah,
and one more midfielder.
That's the benefit of low wages no one talks about, is you can only spend a percentage of your total revenue. And having a lower wage bill means more money for transfers, and we spent £130 million a season on average since the stadium opened. You do that again in the window and you sign a left wing back for cover, so Porro and Spence can properly rotate as the right wing backs, and you've got Udogie and someone else on the left. And then you've got the budget. I don't think you need another centre back, because you've got, if Romero stays, you've got Romero, Ven, Danso, Gray, Davies, and Dragusin. Like, you've got enough bodies there. And
Phillips, Puskovic, we can make a decision. Donnelly, we can make a decision on those guys too. So it's probably no necessity. That left back, I think, I want to put pressure on Udogie, and then I think that
maybe
midfielder.
Upgrade Werner as well, I think, is what we need to do, is have a better, versatile, senior type, almost like a Danso, but for the wingers. Like it doesn't have to be elite, but it needs to be like, wow, you're like Danso. I think you're just solid. Like, you're solid, you're experienced, you get it.
Yeah.
And having that in the forward line, and then if Richarlison has sold, an improvement on him, I think those three and the six, I think the squad's complete. Like, you've gone from needing 25 players to needing 4 now. So there has been a huge overhaul for the last 18 months.
And going with the younger players, what it's done is raised our base up a lot. Because we could have, to get to someone of Bergvall's level that it's going to be in a couple of years' time, or Archie Gray's level, or Odebear's level is potentially going to be in a couple of years' time, it's going to cost so much money that you can't do it at the speed that we've done. But because we brought in these younger players, obviously our wage has gone down, whilst getting rid of Harry Kane, Hugo Lloris, and Ndombele, Perisic, all those players on huge wages. So this low wage thing has only come up this year because of the circumstances. It's never been a thing before. But we could be Aston Villa, and if they don't make the Champions League, their wages are ridiculous. They're not going to be able to sustain that. It's just, I don't know why people would happily go, like, let's get close to administration or financial disarray for the sake of, I don't even know what, for the sake of being 10th in the league and having an alright Champions League run. They're not going to beat Liverpool, Arsenal, Real Madrid, whoever on the way to the Champions League. And it's just, I think we've
Yeah.
set ourselves up, and because we've got rid of those players, we've got this young base in, we have the ability now to, and hopefully it happens. If it doesn't happen, I'll be disappointed, but we can spend big on that one player. Like if we bought in Adam Wharton, for example, like Crystal Palace would want a lot of money for him, but we can afford to spend it on that, and we can afford to then in the future upkeep Bergvall, Gray, and upgrade their wages because we have that space to do it. And if you give the club grace on being like, well, what was the plan? Was to build this stadium so that we can have revenue in that can compete with these countries. It's literally the only way that we could have done it is to compete with them is by doing this model that we've done. It's just, if you can zoom out for a second and think, well, what's the future hold now? If the action is taken to bring in those two more players, then, do you know, actually, just that kind of mind, do you know who would be that good replacement of Werner? Maybe Jack Grealish. Maybe we could sneak him off. He could be that experienced guy. Yeah, no?
I think he's a itch a lot
past
of Spurs fans want to scratch, but he's in his 30s. I'm not sure he adds enough goals, but he'd be better option than Werner.
No, I think he may be too. After winning the treble, he seemed to have gone like, I'm done now.
Yeah, I think we could find better. I think
true.
I think we've been linked with others. It depends because I think Mikey Moore's probably going to go on loan as well. If you think when everyone's back, so you do need to sign someone there.
Yeah,
but we'll wrap it up there as it's very late in the UK. It's midnight for me now. We just wanted to get some content out because I'm away tomorrow, out for a birthday. So after work. So, but yeah, we'll do a preview pod for the Europa League and go really do some scouting on them to give everyone a good overview of what to expect from AZ. So yeah, and if you enjoyed the show, remember we've got you get an extra episode a week if you remember. So the preview episodes are members only. So that AZ one's a members only episode. How you sign up is if you're listening in order, you go to YouTube and you click join on there. It's only $1.99 a month, but it helps us keep the show alive and stop us having to plug Manscaped and NordVPN and all those guys that you're probably bored of hearing and not have to talk about sponsors 5 times in an episode. It just helps.
We just
keep
gave
the
some
lights
free
on.
sponsorship then.
Yeah, there you go. I just gave them that, so I don't even get any royalties for that at all. Look at me. So yeah, just that's a massive boost for us if you're interested in helping. And yeah, still YouTube takes 30% of what we make from that, so we only make £1 off a month, but it all adds up and helps a lot. So thank you very much. Anyway, we'll say up the Spurs and we'll roll on to the biggest European game for us since that Champions League final in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs. Bye, everybody.